Def Leppard are currently in the middle of a UK tour, and you played at the Hammersmith Odeon last night, and the show had something of a surprise ending. It was a surprise to me. I'm sure you knew what was going to happen, but someone came on stage, did not they?
Brian May is probably our biggest fan, and we're probably his biggest fan. But it was, I mean, for him to come out, if you can understand that, I mean, sort of early days of Def Leppard, that was sort of, like influence-wise, it was, I mean, you've heard sort of Queen vocals and this, that, and the other, guitar sounds, the whole bit. If you can understand that, that is like for us, is such a you know, an ego boost. Is getting somebody like Brian May up on stage.
And you actually played a Queen song. It was an old Queen song that you played as well, wasn't it? Yeah. Brian's been on stage with you before, because I came to see you in Los Angeles a few years back, and he got up on stage with you then as well.
That's right. We did Travelling Band, sung by Creedence Clearwater. So he's actually thinking about joining the band, isn't he?
I understand that he also gave you each a complete set of Queen's back catalogue in CD form.
Yes, you're quite right. You're quite right. Which is
a nice present.
which is like what, 16 albums or so. Which is it? It is.
Maybe you should invite him on stage more often and see what else he can come up with.
I think we should.
Now, Joe Elliott mentioned on stage last night that Def Leppard have had quite a few ups and downs in their careers, and certainly what appears to be a major setback was when you lost your arm in the car crash. But at no point were you ever out of the band, it appears.
No, it's actually brought the band a lot closer together, I think. You know, and there was never really a point where anybody said, well, Rick, it's, you know, it's like this. You know, we can't really. They kind of left the decision up to me.
Right.
And in the same way, I was sort of leaving the decision up to them. But the progression was really good.
So was there ever a point when you felt, I'm not going to be able to do this, I can't carry on with the band, I'm going to let them down?
No, nobody would let me do that. You know, my family, sort of the band, and literally thousands and thousands of letters, you know, coming in. So I thought, if I don't carry on, I'm going to be letting so many people down. So you know, there was never a thought.
Right. Now, obviously, you had to have your drum kit modified in order to play. I think you're using your left foot a lot more, aren't you, now, than normal drummers do?
Yeah, a lot more. But I mean, everybody sort of says, oh, you know, Rick's special drum kit, but it's all actually off-the-shelf equipment. It's either Simmons equipment or Akai or these pedals what I use called shark pedals. And the only difference is using so many pedals in line. Like there are people that use pedals, you know, fair enough, but not that many in line. That's the only difference. I pretty much play everything I used to play with my left arm, with my left foot there.
So were you thinking about all this when you were lying in hospital recovering from the accident?
I was, because I broke my right arm quite badly, and to stop me sort of sliding down the bed, what they did, they put this big chunk of foam at the bottom of the bed. So I started tapping my feet on this big piece of foam, and I thought, yeah, I could use that, you know. And then the wheelchair was pretty good as well, you know, a couple of foot plates, you know.
I think your first official comeback, there was a couple of warm-ups, was at last year's Castle Donington Festival. You played in front of many thousands of fans on your own with the band. There wasn't two drummers, it was just you there. Was that very emotional for you?
It was, very much so. I've got my mum and dad standing over on stage left. I've got all these people, and when Joe introduced me, I was like totally blown away. I mean, the amount of sort of respect I was feeling from the audience. I was sitting up there sort of crying all over my pads, you know. I'm thinking I'm going to get electrocuted or something any minute, you know. But it was really very special.
Yeah. It certainly works well. We can take a look at Def Leppard in action now. This is the first American single. It's a track called Women.
Correct.
Jack, I think it's fair to say that Def Leppard have now finally broken through in the UK. How does it feel to have the European fans on your side after, well, the band's been together 10 years now, hasn't it?
Well, it's great. It's been a long time, and we've always had that success the other side of the Atlantic. But it's just a question of, we never knew whether it was going to happen in Europe, because you can never gauge it. England, France, Germany, you never really know. And it's just great that it's coming right now.
Because there has been a certain amount of resentment against Def Leppard in the past, because I think people felt you only cared about America and didn't think about the fans.
I think that was quite a long time ago, really. I think in the last 4 or 5 years, people have been realising that we never were like that anyway. We just basically try and make records the way that you want them to sound, and it's not for any specific motives or for any particular territory. It just so happened that we did get well received in America with our first album, which was like 8 years ago now.
That's right.
And you know, I think it just went on from there, but I think people realise now that you just do it for genuine reasons.
Yeah. Well, the new album, Hysteria, went straight into the charts in the UK at #1. Was that a great surprise to the band?
Surprise, shock. We're still shocked with it. We still can't believe it, to be quite honest. I mean, to go in at #1 is great, but straight into the charts at #1 was it's unbelievable. We just never thought it had happened.
It must be also nice, because I think a lot of people felt you wouldn't be able to follow up the previous album, Pyromania, which was generally regarded as being a real classic, a landmark album, so it's a tough one to follow.
Yeah, it was a tough one to follow, and to be quite honest, everybody knows we spent ages trying to follow the thing up. But we're happy with the new record. We think it is different enough in a progressive way, but still keeping the Def Leppard sound. It's still got the guitars in there, but we just wanted to just vary it a little bit, and we're really pleased the way it came out.
Obviously, you didn't want to make Pyromania Part 2 or Son of Pyromania. You wanted to show the band had moved on.
Yeah, that was the main thing. I mean, to be quite honest, we got to the stage where we could have literally brought out a Pyromania 2 almost a year after since we finished touring on Pyromania, but that's the last thing we wanted to do. And we kind of think that there's been 1 or 2 Pyromania 2 albums out anyway by other bands.
I think certain bands have even come out and admitted that they were very influenced, if not ripped off that album.
That's fine. I mean, we don't mind that at all. I mean, we took our influences from some people, and we find it a great compliment if people do the same to us, really. You know? But there's no bitterness or anything like that.
I think the new album shows a slightly different set of influences from the band. Because before it was sort of UFO, Thin Lizzy. Maybe now it's a bit more varied.
It is a lot more varied. It's just a question of listening to more things, a wider range of things, and still incorporating it with your standard, people might say typical hard rock sound, you know.
Well, certainly the album was a long time in the making. I think it was about 3 years altogether, something like that. How do you keep yourself motivated over that longer period of time?
It's a question of, you've got to be very single-minded about your attitude to it. If you have an idea in your head how you want it to sound, you can't be forced to be swayed either way. And as long as you just keep that direction, and unfortunately we were working with a producer that thinks the same way as us, and if anybody does start thinking, oh, that'll do, he always says, no, it won't do, it's not good enough, and it makes us do it again, you know.
Well, the producer was Matt Lang, who did a very fine job on the record.
Yeah. He's a great producer.
He's a real genius, isn't he, really?
He really is, yeah. I mean, he's worked wonders for loads of bands, Foreigner, Cars, AC/DC, you know. He's just a terrific guy and a really great producer.
Right, well, this seems a good point to take a look at a track from the album.
Great.
This is the first single, and this is Animal.
Great.
I think we should mention at this stage that the reason we're looking a little the worse for wear today is because after your show at Hammersmith last night there was an informal gathering at a restaurant in London attended by many people, including Spandau Ballet. Are you a fan of Spandau Ballet?
We're good friends of them.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say fans, but we like them as people. You know.
Well, where did you meet up with them?
In Dublin, when we were doing parts of the they were recording and basically rehearsing in Dublin for quite a while. And at one stage it was great because there was ourselves, Spandau, Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Thompson Twins and a couple of some other people, right? But it was a bit like, and Dublin's not that big a city really. It was like a very confined space, and it was great. We basically knew each other for 6 months, and we had some great laughs. Yeah, they're really nice people, great guys.
Well, I've already mentioned that the new album, Hysteria, took quite a long time to record, about 3 years, I think it was, something like that, in fact. But it's finally with us at the moment. It must have taken up a lot of studio time. How much did the record cost at the end of the day?
A lot of money. It didn't actually take 3 years to record. We were in the studio for about 2 years. And I don't exactly know the rates of studios, but if £500 a day is quite cheap, so you can work it out yourself.
No, but not this morning.
And I wouldn't want to any particular morning.
I think part of the reason why it took maybe longer than expected was you originally started with the producer Jim Steinman, who's worked with Meatloaf in the past, and Jim didn't seem to work out with you very well.
No, we realised after a very short time that his way of recording was totally different to the way that we thought it should be done. Because we'd worked with Mutt for, what, 2 albums?
Right.
So our standards were just so much higher. I mean, it was like he'd try and take something out of whatever we put on tape, but it isn't really like that. With us, we like to think it's either right or it's wrong. You know, there's no sort of in-between.
Yeah.
You know, that sort of perfectionism.
It was just a total mismatch.
It was.
That's all. I mean, he had his ways of recording people, and we had ours, and we just couldn't compromise.
Well, there was also
on
a story going around that he wanted to change the colour of the carpet in the recording studio.
Well, that isn't quite true, but he did actually change his carpet in his hotel room.
His hotel room, yeah.
He did. That's fact.
Yeah.
Well, after Jim Simon went, I think you tried to record the album yourselves with an engineer, and that didn't work out either.
Well, what happened? We ended up. I think we fell in the trap at that particular stage of trying to do a Pyromania or two, and it was like it was sounding really good, but it didn't have a freshness about it, and it wasn't until Mutt came back on the scene that he injected that freshness and a sort of positive direction. Because what we were doing sounded okay, but it just wasn't special enough. That was the problem. And when Mutt came, he really put the polish on it, if you like.
Yeah. Well, certainly it's turned out well. It's a big worldwide success. How many records have Def Leppard sold worldwide, would you say now?
I wouldn't know. Maybe 12 million. I don't know.
Well, I wish you all the success with this new one. I'm sure it's going to be very well indeed. I think we should go and comb my hair now.
No, really. I spent ages getting it done up.
Here's more Def Leppard.